And even if you don't want to sit on the floor, you can just sit on the first row because those seats are empty as well. So it's pretty easy.
All right, welcome to the latest episode of Game Day Glare. I'm Lance. I'm with E. This is the podcast for sports videographers. How you doing, E?
Good. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I've been busy, hustling, doing some corporate stuff, running and gunning. A couple interviews, couple drone outside. Actually, I flew my drone for the first time outside in this cold weather. It's been a while, and I forgot how fast the batteries drain in the cold weather, man. Oh my God. It was like I probably got a 15-minute flight the other day, but it didn't help that it was minus like 22 when I was flying
What
it.
would it be normally like in the summer? How long?
Usually I get like 30 minutes of
Oh,
flight
geez.
time. So
Yeah, it is
yeah,
big
yeah, yeah.
difference.
And it was probably a little lower because also too in the winter, it's like a lot of wind, that cool breeze. So it was fighting it that too. Cause I just have a mini mini Pro 3 actually. And anyway, it was fun though using it because, I use it a lot in the summer, but in the winter, I kind of don't get to play with it too often. But the only thing is when you don't use your drone in a while, there's like always tons of updates. So thank God I remembered this time and I had to update everything before I left. And then of course I get on site and then DJI logged me out of my account. I had to re-log in and I'm panicking, because you just want to get this over with and you're freezing. But no, it was fun. It was fun shooting some different stuff that I haven't shot in a while. It always keeps you a little bit fresh, but every time you fly your drone, I don't know, I find it a bit nerve wracking. I'm always afraid that something's going to go wrong. I'm going to crash it, or I don't know, because I have another drone shoot coming up next week. So I'm always making sure that my drone stays safe for my next project. But no, what about you? What have you been filming lately?
Not much. A lot of basketball actually. Just making the most of There's I don't know if it's called semi-professional. What type of level it is? I'm not too sure, but yeah, it's like a North American league, and they play 5 minutes away from my house, so it's perfect for when I need to do a YouTube video. And there's plenty of room, there's definitely a few cameras, but there's not a lot of fans these days. I think because of the cold weather and all that, and it's a not so well-known league. Like there's not many people, so there's tons of space if I want to put like a second camera, or if I want to go underneath the basket. It's not like a typical like professional basketball games. If you want a good spot on the baseline, you got to get there a bit early to make sure that they don't all run out. But over there's plenty of room. And even if you don't want to sit on the floor, you can just sit on the first row because those seats are empty as well. So it's pretty easy. So yeah, it makes my life way easier.
But I've been to that venue with you, and the basketball itself is decent. It's very, very good. So it's kind of
Yeah,
nice that you can have that creative freedom. So have you been trying some new shots or try anything with that extra space there? Or
yeah. Well, I do try to. I think I do get a bit more. I don't know. I dare a bit more, I guess, because it's not. Because I'm assuming they're not making a lot of money, so it's not like there's like security everywhere telling you what you should or should not do. It's you're pretty much left on your own to do whatever. So sometimes I was like there's the bench, and I'm literally like the last player on the bench, and I'm just there with my camera, like just right next to them and filming because I want to have them kind of in the foreground in my shot, especially if someone scores like a three, and then you get the bench's reaction. So yeah, I get way closer to the team benches than I would in any other professional sport. But other than that, yeah, I try to, like it makes my life easier way more, I'd say, for the behind the scenes aspect. Like I can leave my camera on a chair, for example, and then just walk up to it and sit down to the chair next to it so that, I shoot like my arrival like that, or filming myself, like putting the camera on the floor just next to me while I'm filming the game. That I have to be a bit cautious of. I try to do it like when they're at the other end, because if a player falls, which I left, there's one time where the action was coming back. I was like, oh, I'll just leave it there because I worked hard on the angle, and I was like, what could happen? And sure enough, guys drive fails, and I just like took the camera off right as he was falling into it, basically. So everyone's okay.
The
But
camera's
yeah,
good.
it was a close call. It was a close
How
call.
was the shot
I think the
though?
camera would have suffered more than him, but no,
How
I
was the shot?
didn't have the chance to get a good shot. I took the camera out of the way before capturing anything good, unfortunately.
Oh, because I got in trouble at an NBA game last time they were in town. I was baseline and I had a player fall on me and I had the camera. So what I did is I protected the camera and I kind of saved the player. I put my arm out to save the player from hitting the camera. And then security yelled at me for touching a player. The player said thank you, but security was mad at me because I was supposed to let the guy fall into the camera and hurt himself, I guess, instead of doing that. But you don't have that problem there. They're falling into some empty chairs or just to your gear, you know? All right. So today's episode, let's talk about why you were filming all that basketball. Something that I've been excited to talk about for a long time, and it's the Sony A75. Now, everyone knows who listens to this show that I have the A7 IV. I'm a big fan of the A7 IV, but I have not had a chance to get my hands on the A75. So what I want to do today is talk about all the, first of all, does it fix the problems that the A7 IV had, the A7 V? And, does it live up to the hype? And do we feel like it's a big enough jump to be your next camera? Because there's a lot of good cameras right now on the market. Like I hear a lot of people talking about the Nikon, the Canon's coming back in that, and people were kind of shocked that Sony came out with the A7 V because it has some new specs, but not all the bells and whistles as these other cameras in the same price range have. So let's get into it. Right off the bat. So, what was your first day like with the A75?
Well, really good. Honestly, I filmed the game first off at like 4K 60, um, and that was fun because there's no crop. Like that's the main sort of main improvement from the A7 4K 60 is that there was a 1.5 crop, I think, in
Yes, yes.
on the A74. It's so an APS-C crop basically, but this time it's full frame. So I definitely wanted to test that and look at the quality, and it was great. There's a new setting that says, I think it's called like 4K view priority or something like that. Um, and it basically, you have to choose between, if you turn it on, then you see like the full size of your shot, but you lose the noise reduction feature at the highest ISOs. Like there's like a noise reduction thing that you can have, that you can use in camera for the high ISO, and so that turns that off. Or you turn that 4K view priority thing, you turn it off, and then you get like a small crop. It's not like 1.5; it's probably like 1.1 or 1.2, and and then you retain the noise reduction. But personally, I prefer to film wide, to have like the full size of my image, than to have less noise when I'm filming at like 10,000 ISO, because I never do. So yeah, so I turned that on, but and I film full size, full frame, like, and it was great. No, I really liked it. I really, it's like, I think I was telling you off air, like we can go through all the specs, but I think, like, spoiler alert, like if I was to buy like a camera today that does both photo and video really well, that would probably be it.
Well, that's the reason why I have that camera is to do photo and video. Like my FX3 I use primarily for video. Yes, it does take nice pictures, your FX3 if you need, but I feel like the mode on it is harder to use. Where on the A7 IV and the A7 V, there's just a little switch. So did you try any still photos? Did you
Yes, I did.
mess around with the little switch? And
Yeah,
what did you
I
think?
did, because I wanted to also try the fact, because on your A7 IV, I think you can shoot 10 frames a second, if I'm not mistaken. Because obviously I've been studying the differences between the two cameras in the last few weeks. Um, and on the A75, it's 30 frames per second. So I thought like the 30 frames was pretty cool, because yeah, like, means technically you can create a video out of photos. Like, so I wanted to test that theory, and so yeah, it's well, obviously the photos are really nice. The only issue is that it's kind of early at the moment. Like I was talking to my Sony contact who let me borrow the camera, and she was saying they're just starting to actually sell them. People who pre-ordered the camera, not everyone's got one now. Like it's just the start. So basically, all that to say that there's a lot of like the photos I had. Basically, the first day when I took photos, I couldn't open them in Photoshop because I used the formats that are not that Adobe hasn't updated for yet. So I had to go back. Like for example, like the dot. Because usually, like for the lower res, you can choose between JPEG and HEIF, but that HEIF format, which was there by default, in the A75, it's now like HIF, and it's the same thing but different, and so Photoshop doesn't open it. And then the raw format is like three different formats, but and I was shooting in the right one at first, but the thing is, like, I only have SD cards, and if you want to do like 30 frames a second, like my cards weren't fast enough. Like it would start, like it would go, but it would, it would just get slower and slower by the longer I would hold the button. So I figured that yeah, it's just my reads, my writing speed's not fast enough. So I wanted to lower the quality of the photos a bit, and I did it on one SD card instead of two to really get that 30 frames per second. But then by doing that, those new sort of updated raw formats that are just as good but use less data, Adobe's not ready for them yet. So I can't, like, I can see them, like I can preview them on my Mac, but I can't open them in Photoshop or what's the other one, Lightroom. So I'm a bit fucked at the moment, but photo wise. But taking those photos and hearing the shutter just go like crazy, and knowing that, like for example, when a player is shooting or where he's driving to the basket, and I've got every single frame of that in a photo, is pretty cool, because then you've got a good pick somewhere in there. But it's just so many photos to go through on your computer, though. It's insane. Like I can't imagine if I was just taking pictures, because I took pictures for like 5 minutes here or there. If I was to do that the entire game, like you gotta be more selective than I was, because you would end up with like a million photos, and it's just transferring photos from one game in particular, when I just took a little bit more, not that many, took longer than transferring video. It was just like, because there's so many of them, and there's the raw and those HIF files, and this, yeah, it was just taking forever. Because I think, like, when you're transferring stuff, like it's longer when it's way more smaller files than a few bigger files for the same size. You know what I mean? Like the same size. If you got like way more files on one side that are smaller, but just as a group are the same size, it just takes way more time. So like transferring the photos was just taking forever. So yeah, on the computer side, it takes a lot of time, especially if you spray and pray like I was doing, like at 30 frames a second. That's a lot of spraying. So, but you're guaranteed to get something nice, and you can even do like cool videos with it, where you can do like a hyperlapse, or you can just do like a quick sort of section where you use like 4, 5, 6 photos to just like recreate a shot or a dunk. So it's really cool for that. Like it added like a new trick to my camera bag. But like, yeah, unfortunately I'm a bit limited with the photos, because it's only towards the third game. I filmed 3 games with it, and it's only at the third game um that I understood like which settings could work with the current version of Photoshop. So yeah, long story, but I love photos.
We've had photographers on the show before, and most of them film in JPEG, and a lot of guys I know, they do about 15 frames, because it does, like you said, you get way too many photos, and it's hard to go through every photo, especially frame by frame. But now you're filming like a video clip, 30 frames for 1 second. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And I think my mistake, because I'm a complete noob at photography. I probably went way too high with my shutter speed. So because I was afraid to, be a bit blurry. So I think I was 1 over like 2000, which was probably not that necessary. So my ISO was quite high. So like the JPEGs, they were kind of noisy, Where with the raw, I can just like denoise and it looks like super clean. So I needed access to the raw. Like once you've seen it like that, you just can't accept the idea of putting the JPEGs in. So I'm like, so anyway, that's all, the life of an editor.
That's the point of testing a camera, is to see these kind of things and give you new ideas.
Yeah.
Like you just said, you added new tools to your bag. So that could, be a check mark for, oh, should I upgrade to this camera, or is this a
Yeah,
camera that could
exactly.
interest me,
Exactly. And all this stuff, like I'm complaining about file formats, but by the time this video comes out, this might not be an issue. Like, you know what I mean? It's just a question of time before Adobe just creates an update and that's it.
Well, actually, it's funny. I was at Gosling yesterday picking up an ND filter, like I told you, and they had the A75 there. So I guess they're slowly starting to roll out. They had one on display, and the guy said he had a couple of pre-orders that were picking up. He didn't have any for sale that day because we were just chatting, but they're slowly rolling out, which is a good thing. So I'm sure that update will be coming out. I'll go through the specs fast though, just to kind of see the difference. So A7 IV is 33 megapixel. You get 4K 30. It's an oversample from 7K. You get a 4K 60 crop 1.5, and you get 1080 at 120. You can do 10-bit 422, 10 frames per second for the shutter, and it's 5.5 stops of IBIS. You have dual SD card and one C Express Type A card. You also readout is about 20 milliseconds. So it's definitely slower than what you have. And the price, I'll give you the US price, it's $2,000 right now. So that's still a pretty good price for a full frame camera that does all that. Now, the new one, 33 megapixel partially stacked sensor. So it's a better sensor, more detail, even though it's still the same 33 megapixel. 4K 60, no crop. 4K 120, 35 millimeter crop. And you could do 1080, 240 in S and Q mode, which is pretty big. 10-bit 422, 30 frames is this shutter speed at 14-bit though. So it's a little, that's why they're heavy. They're heavy. And 7.5 frames, 7.5 stops of IBIS. You have also dynamic active stabilization, which gives you a 30% crop. So that's the feature we're talking about. The big thing I want to ask, though, that we didn't mention, I'll ask it at the end of this, and also you have faster readout, less rolling shutter. Price is $2,900. But what I want to know is the 4-axis multi-angle screen. What is that like, man? That's like, I've only seen on video. So did you use it to its full advantage? Did it really help with different angles?
Well, I kind of bitched about it when I was testing the A1 Mark II because I felt like it was in the way for to use like an external fan on the camera because there's that extra kind of metal plate that's moving that then you can't squeeze anything behind that. But then people pointed out to me in the comments that you can actually leave that plate sort of stuck to the camera, just move the LCD screen itself, and then it's true, like it will attach if that metal plate thingy just stays stuck. But I just assume that if it is against the body, then the heat doesn't come out as much. But I guess since it's the same metal as the body, maybe it doesn't really make any difference. It's not like having the actual screen there. So anyway, I digress. But my point is that like now that I realize that it's not an issue, I kind of like it in a way. Like I don't really need my screen to go in a million directions, but I don't really need, because I can pull it out. I don't need to put it to the side. I can just like pull it out a bit. It's hard to explain without having it in my hands, but I just basically pull it out and have it face up. And I've got my monitor there, so I'm looking through my monitor. And if I just want to confirm my settings, I can just sort of look down, and it's right there, sort of facing me up like that. Where if I had it on another camera on my FX3, if I wanted it behind the camera, it would have to be against the body. Like it wouldn't, you know what I mean? Like it would have to be like completely against the body. So first of all, not great for heat management. And second of all, it would be flat sort of, and where with that extra thing, I can pull it and then tilt it so I can see it from when I'm holding the camera lower. So it is great from that perspective.
It seems like all the new, like Sony now moving forward is always gonna have that screen, I assume, right? Because
Yeah,
the
I think
last
so.
couple camera releases have come with it. So, like, potentially FX3 2, if it ever comes out, I mean, that's where we're headed is that screen.
Maybe not the ZV-10 line, but the Alpha definitely.
The screen is bigger. How did you find the screen? Because it's supposed to be, like, way better than the FX3 screen.
I don't know if it's bigger. It could be, but I didn't notice it per se. I did notice that like the quality is bigger.
It reaches the outsides.
Ah, okay, I see. Yeah, well, like I'm looking mainly at my field monitor, so that's probably why it didn't really, you know, stood out to me. But the quality is better though. Like I think there's more like pixels, like the resolution of the screen itself is better. But again, because I'm using a monitor, like I don't feel like I'm making the most of it to be honest. But yeah, the screen, no complaints there. But that wasn't the thing that like got me excited. Let's put it that way.
So what was the thing that got you excited?
Well, there's two main things. One's a bit more complicated that we can talk about, but the first one I'll get out of the way, which is pretty surprisingly impressive, because I figured because they improved like the heat management on this camera, so there's supposed to be like really low risk of overheating. So the second game that I filmed, I basically decided I'm just gonna film in 4K 120 the entire game. No photos, no 4K 60, just 4K 120. See how long it takes before I overheat. Never did. Like it never overheated. Not even like a warning signal. Nothing. And in that venue, like I know that there wasn't, like I said at the beginning, there wasn't a lot of people, but it's one of those venues where like every camera that I tried there overheated or at least showed me a warning at some point or another. Even my FX3, even like that camera showed me like an overheating warning once, like in that venue, and it wasn't particularly hot. So I don't know if it's the way the air kind of circulates in there, or I don't know, but or maybe there was a vent behind me or something, but yeah, so it's a venue where like I always had overheating issues with any camera that I've used, and that one zero. So and no, I didn't. I brought the Ulenzi fan just in case because I figured if it overheats like halfway through, I'll mention it in my video and I'll add the fan and see if that helps it, get over the line. Never had to take it out of the bag. So that was very impressive because for a mirrorless camera, because usually you're like, oh yeah, if I buy like a Sony ZV-10 Mark II and a fan, it's gonna be way cheaper than buying an FX30 or FX3, whatever. So that now you don't even have to worry about that. Like, and you don't. It's not just that. Oh, I don't have to worry about batteries for my fan and stuff. Like, it's not even a stress. Like, it's not something that's gonna be at the back of your mind. Oh, I hope my camera doesn't overheat. So you can go with like a fully like mirrorless camera that doesn't have an internal fan and you won't have any issues. So it's pretty good for your wallet, first of all, and for your stress levels. The second thing that was really cool was and for those not watching the video, I'm doing air quotes because that's what I wanted to explain because I had a conversation about it with Sony. Is the second base ISO, which is at 8,000, which is very cool because I think on the A74 it was like 3,200, and we're talking in S-Log 3 specifically. But yeah, having a noise reset at 8,000 is quite cool because if you want to film in 4K 120, 3,200 is a bit low, especially if you want to use like an aperture around f4. Like if you don't want to have to stick to 2.8, and especially if you want to use like a higher shutter speed, 3,200 is not going to cut it. So you're going to add noise, no matter what. Where with the A75 at 8,000, you can do all that. I can shoot at f4, well, depending on the gym, obviously, but if it's properly lit, I can shoot at f4. I can shoot at like a 1/400 shutter speed and have my ISO at 8,000, and everything will be clean and I'll be in 4K 120 the entire game, no overheating. Life is good. You know what I mean? So that those two things combined meant that like 4K 120 is a charm. But the thing that I want to mention though is that it's not an actual dual base. It's not a second like base ISO. And same goes for the A74. Same goes for any Sony camera that isn't an FX like cinema line camera, like the set what everybody on Reddit and all that calls like a second base ISO, it's just somewhat of a noise reset, which is great. That's what we want, really. But it's not a base ISO because the dynamic range doesn't reset. So every time you go up um, in when you go up in your ISO, like you lose stops of dynamic range. And with the FX cameras, when you get to the second base ISO, the noise resets and the dynamic range resets. Where with all the alpha cameras that people think that there's a second native ISO, it's a cleanup of the noise, and that's it. So yeah, you got to be careful the way you word these things, especially when you're doing like YouTube videos, because yeah, there's a lot of people like when I Google like what's the second native ISO on the A74, A75, these things come out like as if they're true, but they're not.
Wow, that's I wouldn't have thought that, but first of all, I'm that's crazy about the no overheating because I've been with you there. My A74, I got the warning. Me and you were filming a YouTube video one time, and your camera shut off right in front of us.
The
So it is weird. I do think it is something that building that cameras do overheat. So it's a perfect place to test that. So the fact that you can do 4K 120 and not overheat, that's great. For me, the biggest thing that I feel with the A75 compared to the A74, for my needs, is that it addresses the 4K 60 frames crop, and that's huge. But you said you filmed that at 4K 120. What was that crop like? Like, because it's a 1.5.
it's
I
the
said,
one that you
yeah.
get normally on the A74 at
So how did you
4K60.
find the crop on it? Wasn't that bad?
Well, it wasn't that bad because, to be honest, I haven't really looked yet at the 4K 120 footage, pixel peeping wise, like the noise and stuff, but it doesn't look that bad. And from a framing perspective, like I'm filming with a 16 to 35 on the baseline, I can afford a bit of a crop. And if I'm filming from further out, like with the 70 to 200, that's where filming from the stands is fine, but if I'm on the sideline trying to get a shot, it was getting quite tight. but yeah, because I'm filming at 70 mil plus the crop, I had to take a few steps back, which again, the fact that there wasn't much of a crowd was really helpful because I can be filming from a few feet away from the sidelines and not worry too much about people walking in my shot. Um, but yeah, no, it's obviously it's annoying. Like you'd rather film full size, but if you use it at the right time from the right spots, it's definitely okay. And then yeah, it's just managing the noise. Obviously, I wouldn't want to go too high with the ISO. In like you can go higher in 24 and 60 with a clean image that you can in 120. So you just have to manage that as well. Like if I'm gonna be in a low light environment, I would stick to 60 for sure. But it's the same can be said about my FX3. Like if you go to 120, it's not a 1.5 crop. I think it's a bit smaller than that. But there is a crop and there is more noise and all that sort of stuff.
I am interested though in the 8,000 second ISO. I know you say it's not a real second ISO because from the A74 at 3200 to the FX3 or A7S3, which is 12,800, that 8,000 is getting closer to that FX3 range. So that opens up a lot of doors because that's what the difference between an A7S3 and an A74 really was the low light sensitivity. 3,200 is still good. It's still you can still accomplish a lot, but having that 12,800 was like a huge jump. But now that they have this meet in the middle kind of 8,000, that opens up a lot of doors for people who are looking for a low light camera because technically at 8,000 you have a low light camera.
Definitely. But yeah, it's just that, I say you don't have the same dynamic range. So like, you if you're in a low light environment, your image is brighter, but like your blacks are not going to have as much detail as they would have at like 800, for example. You're not going to get that super detailed cinematic shot where you can see everything, all the textures. Like you're losing a lot of the shadows when you have less dynamic range. The less you have, the less the more details you lose in the highlights and in the shadows. So there's that is still happening. But that's at that point, like we're like pixel peeping, like you know what I mean. Like if you're watching a sports video where the camera's going in all sorts of direction, like who's gonna notice that? Like and you can always make up for it with a little bit of color correction. So it is, yeah. To have a noise cleanup at 8,000 ISO, I think is a like obviously the higher the better. But I've been in certain situations where because I try to stick to my base ISOs with my FX3. So if 800 is not enough, and then I go to 12,800, often it's too much. So it's like, do I want to use like a variable ND filter indoors? But then I have to, what if I change lenses, all that sort of stuff? Or do I just want to crank up? Usually is that's what happened. Like I crank up the shutter speed a little bit, and then I crank up the aperture. But sometimes it's like I'm at that point where I'm filming with like, especially if it's like hockey, for example, with the ice and stuff. Like I'm at a 6.37, f-stop, and I'm like, whoa, that's a bit much. And it's so 8,000 makes it a bit more usable in a way. It just depends on the situations. If I'm talking about like professionally lit venues, so obviously for high schools and things like that, probably 12,000 is the sweet spot. But for professional venues, 8,000 is probably more on the money than 12,000.
One last thing on the overheating. So you said you were so surprised at an overheat. Did you actually have to go in the menu and turn on? So on my A74, there's actually a setting that I have to turn on to try and fight the overheating. Did you have to go in the menu and did you try any of that
Well,
stuff?
if you're talking about the one that says like it's like the
Higher temp.
power off, higher temp. Yeah, put it to high. Yeah, I do that on all my cameras, like even my
Okay.
FX3 and all that. Like that's a given. That like if I'm filming sports, that has to be on. I didn't try
No,
without it, but uh, but yeah, it was definitely on. No,
okay.
when I
And
say on,
now,
it was a high basically.
okay. And next up, I want to ask you is what was the stabilization like? Did you notice a difference in the stabilization from even your FX3? So there's some new features like this has the newest IBIS in it. Did you notice it? I mean, I know you're already using native Sony lenses most of the time, and it does, stabilization works a little bit better, autofocus works a little better with Sony lenses. But did you feel like more stable?
It's hard to tell because well, like you say, I'm using a 16 to 35 on the baseline, so straight off the bat, I'm pretty stable. Like it's so wide that it's hard to be shaky. And if not, then I'm using a 70 to 200 that has stabilization in it. So again, it's hard to tell if the camera is doing most of the work or the lens, but it was good. All that to say that like the standard one, I think I think I used active when I was filming at 4K 60 a little bit. No, I didn't use it. Yeah, I stuck to the normal standard IBIS the whole way through. Because yeah, I definitely filmed with the standard one when I was filming in 4K 120 because I didn't want to add any extra crop or anything. But I think I stuck to it the whole time, and yeah, it was fine. Like I didn't feel like I was particularly shaky. Um, there's that the dynamic mode. I think is good. Like I did like a walk-in shot at some point, so it was great for that. I didn't even need to use the warp stabilizer, and I was just walking handheld. Like I wasn't on a gimbal and it wasn't like a super like hard stepping walk, but it wasn't a ninja walk either. It was somewhere in the middle. But I wouldn't use that mode for filming sports just because like as you're doing like it's hard for the camera to understand the difference between a small camera movement that is on purpose, like just going from one player to the next, for example. It's hard for the camera to know that this doesn't need to be worked on, but a little shake has to be. So if you're using active, it's already doing a little bit of that, like trying to correct things that don't need to be corrected. But if you're using dynamic active, then it's even worse. Like it's trying to correct stuff that active can't handle. So usually what happens is that when let's say you're following the ball going into the basket, or you're following a player driving to the basket, you'll see like little jitter, little moments like that almost looks like you're skipping frames. That's the active or dynamic active stabilization, like fighting your camera movement. So you have to be careful with those things, where IBIS won't do that. Like IBIS is just like it's not electronical, it's just mechanical, so that it's never fighting whatever you're doing. It's just making it smoother, basically. Um, but yeah, to answer your actual question, I don't think that it's hard to tell if the Ibis was better, at 7.5 than 5.5, but it definitely was good enough for what I was doing.
And now the new AI features, did you try any of those, like the auto framing or any
I
of
didn't try
that?
any of the auto framing, but the autofocus felt better than what I'm used to. It's again, it's hard to tell because with sports, there's so many people in your frame and you're constantly moving and all that. But it felt like when the camera wasn't focusing on the right player, it was easier to get back to where it should be. Like where sometimes like your camera just dozes off and it just doesn't want to stick to what you want it to stick to. And even if you put your finger on it because it's been like 5 6 seconds that you're out of focus and like you put your finger on it and it goes back to what it wanted to do and you're like that. Where with this camera, it was, yeah, it was very rare that I was like, oh shit, like it's been so long, I have to do something about this. And when it did happen, it kind of like followed my lead a little bit better, it felt. So yeah, it did feel like the autofocus was easier to manage, more responsive, things like that. And I should say as well, like regarding the dynamic active stabilization, that when you use like a third party lens, like a Tamron or a Sigma, or even if you use like a Canon with an adapter, you lose dynamic active stabilization in the camera, and you also lose lens compensation, like breathing compensation and things like that. But to me, like, it's not really, like I said, dynamic active stabilization I wouldn't use while filming sports, and lens compensations are not really things that you're going to notice while filming sports. So not a big deal. Like if I'm a Tamron shooter, I wouldn't stop the I would not use my Tamron 35 to 150 just because of that. Let's put it that way.
So Sony's pushing the Sony lenses then with those extra features if you need them, right? I guess with the new cameras that are coming out.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like if it's on purpose or what. Well, probably is. I don't know, but I think it's like the new motherboard or new processor or something like that. Like that just doesn't fit well. Even I think the same thing happens with like really older like Sony lenses as well. Like it's not just that they're against third party. It's just it's an old technology that just doesn't fit with the new.
Okay. I do find personally having the A74 and the FX3, my autofocus is better on my A74 than my FX3. I always feel like the FX3 struggles a bit with the autofocus. Did you have to go in manual mode at all filming the sports, or did you test manual mode, or not even?
Well, I tested it for like my behind the scenes stuff, but not for sports. So maybe once when I was trying to get people in the way, yeah, I did when I had the bench in the foreground, and yeah, I kept kept focusing on the players that were on the bench. So yeah, I did use manual for that bit, but that was about it.
So like my FX3, I've had issues before when I do like a two-person interview. I always feel like one person, it sticks to them more than the other person. So I usually go into manual mode to get rid of that. Where when I use my A74, I don't have that issue at all. It locks onto both of them right away. And I at first I thought, oh, maybe it's something I had in the settings, and I check, and it's no, it's I don't know why, but the A74 is a little bit better than that. Now, did you notice, since you took some photos, did you notice all the features that you can pick birds, dogs, people, boats,
Yeah, yeah,
cars
yeah.
for focus net? Like the
You
menus,
can leave it on
they've
auto as
added a
well.
lot. Oh,
The
you can leave it in
camera
auto
figures
too?
it out. Yeah, I can leave it on auto, so the camera's gonna understand, I guess, if it's a person or a car or a bird. Oh, I don't know if it understands what it is or if it's just like one of the whatever. If it's one of those options, you can focus on it. Basically, I'm guessing that's what's happening. But uh, but yeah, I saw it, but I didn't film any. I didn't film anything else than humans, so I stuck to that. But yeah, no, I know there are like a few AI features where you can leave your camera on the tripod and it's basically gonna crop and then follow you around as you move. Um, I guess if you're shooting yourself while training, that could be a great option. Like a lot of people like put the camera on the tripod and they do like mic'd up videos of themselves like playing 3-on-3 basketball or just filming yourself training so that you can look at it to to as a coaching sort of tool. This could be a good a good feature to use for those situations. But yeah, I haven't tested it though.
What about as a YouTuber who has to do a lot of stuff? Like for your behind the scenes, this could be a game changer for you then, no? If it has the active track?
Yeah, probably. I think I guess I could put like a super wide shot and just like make the camera focus on me the entire time, and then yeah, it would make it a bit more dynamic. Yeah, not wrong. Depends on the situation, because the thing is, usually I can't put my camera too far away from me. But
Mm. I like how you said that too far away from me, like someone might steal my camera.
well, there's that. There's more. It's mostly the risk of like yeah, the ball hitting the camera or someone not seeing it and then hitting it, running into it, and things like that. But it's mostly the space, honestly. Like if I'm filming at a football game, like I can put the camera next to me and film myself, but there's people around. If the action comes, I have to be able to run and grab it quick. So yeah, it's I can't have it like I can't just leave it somewhere and move like 10 feet away. Let's put it that way.
So when you got your hands on this camera, right, and you decided you were going to film these games and test it, what was your goal? Not your goal, but like you were like, I'm going to put this camera through certain tests. What were your tests and lenses like that you said that you wanted to achieve with this, and did it achieve like meet your standards?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, definitely, I wanted to test 4K 16 no crop. I wanted to test the 4K 120. I wanted to see the overheating. I wanted to look at all the new features that we mentioned that are not on the A74, or that have been improved from the A74. So that's pretty much what I did. I wanted to try photos as well because I like the idea of the 30 frames per second. So yeah, so I touched at all that, and everything. To be honest, there wasn't a thing that like a new feature, an improvement. There wasn't one that I was like that. That's they well, except for that's not a Sony thing. But I was gonna say like there's not a new feature or an improvement that disappointed me. Right, that wasn't up to what I was expecting. The only thing that's a bit awkward is that second base ISO, but it's not that they never promised the second base ISO. It's just that people assume that it is, but then talking to Sony, I realized that it's not. Um, so that's a bit disappointing, I guess, but it's not. No, it's nobody's fault, is what I'm getting at. But yeah, I don't. I really like I was telling you like earlier. I think like if I was on the market to get a good camera that can produce like professional photos and videos all in one, that would probably be it. Because if you want like a hybrid camera that can do like high end stuff, if you don't get the A75 or the A74 for that matter, but the A75 is just better. Um, you go then to like A1 Mark twos and things like that, like A9s, Mark threes, and you're talking like $7,000 US. So it's a whole different ball game. Because otherwise, like if you look at the A7 R5, for example, it's skewed where it's a much better photography camera than video camera. It can do both, but it's definitely great at one and kind of okay at the other. And the A7S3 is kind of the opposite, where it's way better at video. And it's not that it's not good at photo, but it's a 12 megapixel sensor, and yeah, there's features that are not sort of made for photos. So it's like it can do both, but it's way better at one than the other. Where the A75 I feel is really good at both. And that's like for a hybrid shooter. Like if I was shooting only video with my new camera, I would probably just get another FX3 so that everything's the same and it's just easier for my workflow and everything. But if I wanted to do like hybrid, that's definitely the camera I would get personally.
Yeah, and I think that's what Sony was aiming for, right? Is like the perfect hybrid camera where it has enough new features and the price point is pretty good. It's only $900 more than the older model. So it does open up a lot of new doors. How was the color correction compared to your FX3, by the way? It was pretty much the same, or the color science has stayed the exact same?
Yeah, it looked pretty similar from what I've seen. I'm not at the color correction stage. I'm just putting stuff together, but yeah, it looks pretty similar. Apparently, the white balance tool is improved. I didn't play with it too much. I used either like a because I since I had been at that venue before, like I just checked what color temperature I used last time that I was happy with, and just put that in the camera, so I was ready to go when I have to play around with it too much. But apparently, the white balance tool has been improved. I'm not too sure how. I think it's the picker that just works better. But yeah, color correction was pretty. Is the colors in comparison to my FX3 looks pretty similar. Yeah.
So my last question too is, do I need to sell my A7 IV and buy an
Hmm.
A75?
Yeah, I don't know. I think if you use it every day, and you're a hybrid shooter, and your A7 IV is your main camera, and you're making money, you're living off of it, I would probably do it. Because it's just that much better in terms of like all the new features that you get. Like all the improvements are real improvements. It's not just like gimmicky so that they can convince you to buy a new camera. It's not like going from the iPhone 14 to the iPhone 15, you know what I mean? Like it's not just like little things that you're like, really I don't need it, but I want the new one. Like there's real differences. So if you're not using it professionally, if it's your second camera, if you're using it professionally but it's your second camera, it's probably not worth it. That becomes more of a budget thing, like on your how much money do you have? How much money do you like to spend on cameras and stuff? But if it is your workhorse and you're working with it, I would do it. If it's a hobby, probably not, to be honest.
So you're telling me to get it. Okay, I see what you're saying here.
Well, you got an FX3, don't you?
Yeah, I have an X3, but I like when I do conferences and stuff, I use my A7 IV the most because I am taking photo, I am taking video, and the only thing I don't like is the 46 the 4K 60 crop. Now Sony's kind of like gone out on a ledge this year, coming out with the FX2. There was mixed reviews about that. The FX2 is basically A7 IV with a fan and a couple little added features, and now they came with the A75, which took so long to come out, and there's mixed reviews about what other companies are doing, but if you're in the Sony family and you're happy with this product. So it's a good on when I look at the specs and I see everyone's reviews on it, it seems like it's solid. They fixed the crop, they fixed the overheating issue.
Battery life is good too.
See, battery life, and at $3,000 for a full frame camera that does everything, I think it's worth it, and I know that you gave it a good test, and you feel like it is too. So maybe this could be your pro camera if you're looking to upgrade from a ZV and move into the full frame thing. But I mean, honestly, E, thanks for testing it out. Thanks for giving me the feedback. I've been dying to get my hands on this camera, so I will test it out myself too. But I'm glad you got to go at it first. So it gives me some hope that maybe this is what I've been looking for, because I am very very happy with A7 IV, and if the A75 does all the things as good as you say, then I feel like it's a no brainer also.
Yeah, I think if you try it, you're probably gonna end up buying it. Just because, like, so those things, once you go there, you can't go back, those sort of things. So I think you'll get a bit of FOMO if you use it and get used to it. So good luck.
And it has the same body as the A1, supposedly. Like the body's a little bit different and bigger. Like
Yeah, it's a
supposedly
bit
it feels
thicker.
really good in your hand. Did you like it? Like it felt good in your hand in that?
Yeah, well, I hadn't seen an A74, physically in a while, so it was hard to remember like how different and how bigger it is. But yeah, it did feel like it was a big enough body for my size, for my hands. So and it was comfortable. It was good. No complaints. I would have liked to have like a cage for it because yeah, with mirrorless cameras, if you want to have like a monitor and a shotgun microphone and all these things, like you definitely need some type of rig, which I didn't have. But yeah, it's a good camera, good body, like it. And the body, like I said, I'm not exactly sure how this lack of overheating uh happens, but I'm assuming the body has something to do with it. So yeah, I can't complain about it.
All right. Well, you guys heard it here on Game Day Glare. E approves the A75. All right. Well, that's it for this
I'm
episode.
chilling today.
That's it. Well, that's it for this episode of Game Day Glare. Take care, guys.